Hook. 0:100 to 0:45, approximately 120 words. The date is October 24, 1942. The location: Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. A suffocating darkness cloaks the Lunga perimeter, a vital defensive line guarding Henderson Field. The air is thick with the stench of jungle rot, sweat, and impending death. Suddenly, the night erupts. Japanese artillery shells scream down, tearing apart the dense vegetation, followed by the terrifying, guttural shouts of "Banzai." Thousands of Japanese soldiers, the elite 2nd Sendai Division, surge forward, a human tide against the thin Marine lines. Machine gun fire stitches crimson lines across the black, mortar rounds blossom into destructive flowers of shrapnel. Amidst this inferno, Sergeant John Basilone, commanding 2 sections of heavy machine guns, stands his ground. His position, a choke point on the southern flank of the perimeter, becomes the epicenter of hell. How can a handful of men, armed with steel and sheer will, possibly hold back an entire regiment determined to die for their emperor? Context: 0:45 to 3 o'clock, approximately 350 words. The year is 1942. The world is ablaze. From the frozen plains of Russia to the scorching deserts of North Africa, humanity is locked in a struggle for survival. In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Pacific, the war is one of island hopping, brutal jungle combat, and a relentless fight for every inch of land. The Solomon Islands, a string of emerald gems scattered across the Azure Sea, become a crucial battleground. Specifically, Guadalcanal. Here, the United States Marine Corps has landed in August, seizing a partially constructed Japanese airfield, quickly christened Henderson Field. This airstrip is the prize, a strategic linchpin. Control of Henderson Field means air superiority, the ability to project power, and a vital step in turning the tide against the seemingly unstoppable Japanese Empire. But Guadalcanal is a nightmare. The heat is oppressive, the humidity suffocating. Malaria, dysentery, and other tropical diseases fell men as effectively as enemy bullets. The jungle is a labyrinth of razor-sharp kanai grass, tangled vines, and treacherous ravines, where unseen enemies lurk. The Japanese, fiercely determined, view Guadalcanal as sacred ground and launch repeated, desperate counter-offensives to reclaim their lost airfield. Sergeant John Basilone is one of these Marines. Born in Buffalo, New York, on November 4, 1916, and raised in Raritan, New Jersey, he is a man forged by hard work and a deep sense of duty. He enlisted in the Army at 18, serving 3 years in the Philippines before joining the Marine Corps in July 1940. His time in the Philippines earned him the nickname, Manila John, a testament to his experience and the respect he commands. Now, a sergeant with the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division, he is a seasoned machine gunner, his expertise honed through years of training and a natural aptitude for the weapon. Yet, even for a Marine like Basilone, the odds on Guadalcanal are staggering. The Japanese are not just fighting, they are fanatical, willing to sacrifice every man for their objective. The very air pulses with a sense of impending doom. A feeling that this island is a meat grinder, and the Marines are the raw meat. Obstacle: 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock, approximately 750 words. The battle for Henderson Field, a multi-day struggle from October 23 to 26, 1942, is the Japanese Empire's most ambitious attempt to retake the airfield. Lieutenant General Harukichi Hyakutake, commander of the Japanese 17th Army, has committed the elite 2nd Sendai Division, a force of approximately 7,000 to 14,000 combatants for the main assault, to strike from the south. This is not a probing attack. This is an all-out offensive, designed to annihilate the American defenders and reclaim the crucial airstrip. On the night of October 23, the Japanese launch a diversionary attack along the Matanakaw River to the west, involving tanks and infantry. 9 Japanese tanks, including 2 7.5-ton Type 95s, roll across the sandbar, but American anti-tank weapons and artillery quickly turn them into burning hulks. Over 6,000 rounds of artillery fall on the Japanese infantry in less than an hour, killing an estimated 600 men and turning the Matanakaw River red. This initial assault is a complete failure, but it serves its purpose. It alerts the Americans to the coming storm, confirming their suspicions that a much larger attack is imminent. The main Japanese force, under Major General Masao Maruyama, has endured a grueling, 2-day march through the dense, unforgiving jungle south of Henderson Field. They hacked their way through 12 miles of mountainous, rain-soaked terrain, a journey far more arduous than anticipated. Exhausted, dehydrated, and many having discarded heavy equipment like mortars and artillery to lighten their loads, they are not in peak condition. Yet, their resolve is absolute. They are ordered to penetrate the Lunga perimeter and seize Henderson Field. The American defenders, primarily the 1st Marine Division under Major General Alexander Vandegrift, are spread thin. Basilone's unit, the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, commanded by the legendary Lieutenant Colonel Louis B. Chesty Puller, holds a 2,500-yard line on the southern face of the Lunga perimeter. This sector is designed to be held by 2 infantry battalions, but Puller's depleted battalion, reinforced by elements of the 164th Infantry, is all that stands there. The Marines have spent the day repairing barbed wire and deepening their foxholes, preparing for the inevitable. No one believed a frontal assault through such formidable jungle was possible. The Japanese, however, are driven by a code of honor that dictates victory or death. They have underestimated the tenacity of the American defenders and the sheer firepower they possess. They are all wrong. The Marines are not just waiting, they are dug in, determined, and ready to unleash a storm of lead and steel. The stage is set for a night of unimaginable horror, where the fate of Henderson Field, and perhaps the entire Guadalcanal campaign, will be decided in the mud and blood of the jungle perimeter. Escalation, 8:32. 00, approximately 3,500 words. As dusk settles on October 24, 1942, the jungle air grows heavy with anticipation. The Marines of the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, are in their positions, their fingers tightening on triggers, eyes straining against the encroaching gloom. Sergeant John Basilone, a man of solid build and unwavering gaze, moves along his 2 sections of heavy machine guns, a total of approximately 16 men, positioned at a critical sector of the Lunga perimeter. These are .30 caliber Browning M1917 water-cooled machine guns, formidable weapons capable of sustained, devastating fire. Each gun, along with its tripod, weighs approximately 90 pounds. He checks the ammunition belts, ensures the water jackets are full, and offers a quiet word of encouragement to his gunners. The men know what is coming. They can feel it in the humid air, hear it in the distant rustling of the jungle, and taste the metallic tang of fear. Around 9:30 p.m., the first sounds of the main Japanese assault pierce the night. Sergeant Ralph Briggs, positioned 3,000 yards in front of the American lines, calls Lieutenant Colonel Chesty Puller's command post. "Colonel, there's about 3,000 Japs between you and me." Puller, ever stoic, asks if he's certain. Briggs's reply is chillingly clear, positive. "They've been all around us, singing and smoking cigarettes, heading your way." The full weight of the Japanese 2nd Division is bearing down. Suddenly, the world explodes. Japanese artillery and mortar fire rain down on the Marine positions, tearing through the jungle canopy, sending splinters of wood and chunks of earth flying. The ground trembles. Then, the first wave of Japanese infantry emerges from the tree line, screaming, "Banzai!" A chilling, fanatical battle cry designed to instill terror. They come in massed formations, human waves, seemingly oblivious to the danger. Basilone's machine guns open fire. The .30 caliber rounds rip through the night, a continuous, deafening roar. Tracers arc across the darkness, finding their targets with brutal efficiency. The leading Japanese ranks are scythed down, their charges faltering as bodies pile up in front of the Marine lines. The air fills with the cries of the wounded, the clatter of rifles, and the constant thud of grenades. Basilone moves between his gun positions, his eyes scanning the chaotic scene, directing fire, identifying new threats. He is a conductor in this orchestra of death, ensuring every note of destruction is played with maximum impact. The Japanese, however, are relentless. They press forward, their officers urging them on with drawn swords. More waves emerge from the jungle, attempting to flank the Marine positions, crawling through the undergrowth, throwing grenades. One of Basilone's machine gun sections takes a direct hit. Mortar rounds blast the emplacement, silencing the gun and scattering its crew. Only 2 men from that section are still able to fight. The line is breached, a gaping hole in the defense. Basilone doesn't hesitate. He sees the danger, the critical weakness in the line. He grabs a spare .30 caliber machine gun, a formidable 90-pound weapon, and its tripod. Under a hail of enemy fire, he races 200 yards across the exposed ground, a seemingly impossible dash. He reaches the silenced emplacement, sets up the heavy weapon, and immediately opens fire. The Japanese, who had been pouring through T.H. Gap, are suddenly met with a torrent of lead. He fires point blank into the charging enemy, mowing them down as they attempt to overrun the position. His hands, already calloused, begin to blister from the intense heat of the barrel, but he ignores the searing pain, his focus absolute. The battle rages for hours. The Japanese shift their attack, attempting to come at Basilone from the rear. He quickly draws his Colt .45 caliber pistol, engaging the close-range attackers, dropping several with precise shots. The close-quarters combat is brutal, desperate. He fights with a primal ferocity, a one-man bulwark against the tide. As the night wears on, a new, insidious threat emerges. Ammunition begins to run critically low. The sustained firing has depleted their reserves, and the supply lines are cut off by the swirling chaos of the battle. The machine guns, the backbone of their defense, are on the verge of falling silent. Without them, the Marines stand little chance against the overwhelming numbers of Japanese infantry. Basilone makes a decision. It is a suicidal act, a desperate gamble for survival. He tells his remaining men to keep firing their rifles and pistols, to hold the line as best they can. Then, he battles his way through hostile lines, dodging bullets and grenades, making a perilous trek back to the ammunition dump. The jungle is teeming with scattered Japanese soldiers, a deadly maze where every shadow could hide an enemy. He moves with a purpose, a grim determination. He reaches the dump, grabs multiple heavy machine gun cartridge belts, throwing them over his shoulders. The weight is immense, easily over 100 pounds, but he hoists them, knowing they are the key to his men's survival. He begins the perilous return journey, burdened by the ammunition, still under continuous fire, still battling through pockets of enemy soldiers. This image of him, laden with belts of ammunition, fighting his way back, will become legendary. Back at his position, he finds another machine gun jammed. With little visibility in the dark, he relies on his training and feel, expertly repairing the weapon amidst the chaos. He then personally mounts it, pouring fire into the renewed Japanese assaults. His men, inspired by his unwavering courage, continue to load the machine guns for him, allowing him to fire continuously, moving between weapons as one exhausts its cartridge and the other is ready. Flares occasionally light up the battlefield, revealing swarms of grenade-tossing attackers, only to plunge the scene back into a terrifying dance of shadows and muzzle flashes. The battle is a blur of continuous firing, frantic reloading, and desperate close-quarters engagements. Basilone's tenacity and skill are the linchpin, ensuring his men remain alive and that the fanatical enemy is cut down. The Japanese launch attack after attack, wave after wave, their sheer numbers meant to overwhelm. But the Marine line holds, anchored by Basilone's unyielding resolve. His position becomes a killing zone, with Japanese bodies piling up in front of his emplacement. The fighting continues through the night and into the early hours of October 25. The Japanese are exhausted, their attacks becoming less coordinated, but their will to fight remains unbroken. Basilone and his remaining Marines are on the brink of collapse, fighting without sleep, rest, or food for what feels like an eternity. Yet, they hold. They hold against all odds, against the full might of a determined Japanese regiment. Climax 32:0038:00, approximately 900 words. The night deepens, becoming an endless, suffocating maw of sound and fury. It is past midnight, the early hours of October 25th. The Japanese, despite staggering losses, are still coming. Their screams of "Banzai" are hoarse now, their charges less organized, but their desperation is palpable. Basilone's position, a small pocket of resistance on the perimeter, is a crucible. The air is thick with cordite, the smell of blood, and the metallic tang of fear. Rain begins to fall, a warm, tropical downpour that turns the earth into a slick, treacherous mud. The visibility drops to almost zero, illuminated only by the sporadic flashes of gunfire and the brief, blinding bursts of Japanese flares. One of Basilone's machine guns jams again. The weapon, overheated from continuous firing, falters. He curses under his breath, his hands, raw and blistered, moving with practiced speed. He feels for the parts, his fingers navigating the intricate mechanisms in the absolute darkness, ignoring the searing heat of the metal. Rounds whiz past his head, grenades explode nearby, showering him with mud and shrapnel. He works with a desperate urgency, knowing that every second the gun is silent, the line is weaker, his men more express. OSED. His breath comes in ragged gasps, his body screaming for rest, for food, for a moment of peace. But there is no peace, only the relentless, pounding rhythm of war. As he finally clears the jam, a new wave of Japanese soldiers materializes from the rain-swept darkness, perhaps 50 yards away. They are a shadowy mass, moving with silent, deadly intent, closing fast. They are so close that Basilone can hear their guttural shouts, the metallic clatter of their gear. He swings the machine gun, its heavy weight a familiar extension of his will. The barrel glows cherry red in the gloom. He opens fire, a long, sustained burst that rips into the charging enemy. The Japanese falter, then fall, their momentum broken by the sheer volume of lead. But they are not alone. To his left, another group of Japanese, perhaps 20 strong, attempts to infiltrate through a shallow ravine, aiming to outflank his position. They are moving low, hugging the ground, their forms barely visible in the driving rain. Basilone's eyes, burning with exhaustion and adrenaline, spot the movement. Without a moment's hesitation, he drops the machine gun, grabs his Colt .45 pistol from his waistband. He rises slightly, exposing himself to enemy fire, and unleashes a series of rapid, controlled shots. The sharp crack of the pistol cuts through the continuous roar of the battle. 1, 2, 3 Japanese soldiers drop, their advance halted. He fires until the magazine is empty, then quickly shoves a fresh one into the grip. He is a whirlwind of controlled violence, a man possessed, his every action precise, deadly. His remaining 2 gunners, Private First Class Nash W. Phillips and another Marine, are loading belts, their movements mechanical, fueled by sheer terror and the inspiring presence of their sergeant. They keep feeding the hungry machine guns, their hands moving almost as fast as Basilone's own. "Keep 'em coming," Basilone shouts over the din, his voice raw but unwavering. "Don't stop. Keep 'em coming." The Japanese are everywhere, a swirling, desperate mass. Some manage to get within hand-to-hand range, engaging in brutal, silent struggles in the mud. Basilone, even while firing his machine gun, kicks, punches, and uses the butt of his pistol against those who breach the immediate perimeter. He moves constantly, a blur of motion, shifting his weight, adjusting his aim, pouring fire into every approaching shadow. His machine guns are a roaring, spitting beast, a wall of steel that the Japanese cannot penetrate. The bodies pile higher, forming a gruesome barricade. The ground in front of his position is a charnel house, littered with the dead and dying. Hours stretch into an eternity. The rain continues to fall, washing the blood into the mud, but doing nothing to extinguish the fires of battle. Basilone's hands are raw meat, his arms aching, his shoulders burning from the recoil and the constant manipulation of the heavy weapons. His throat is parched, his vision blurred by exhaustion and the acrid smoke. But he does not stop. He cannot stop. He is the last line, the only thing standing between the Japanese regiment and the vital Henderson Field. He fights for his men, for the airfield, for the very survival of the American presence on Guadalcanal. He simply refuses to break. Legacy, 38:00 end, approximately 500 words. As dawn finally breaks on October 25, 1942, a pale, watery light filters through the shattered jungle canopy. The sounds of battle begin to subside, replaced by the groans of the wounded and the distant crackle of sporadic gunfire. Reinforcements arrive at Basilone's position, finding a scene of unimaginable devastation. Nearly 100 sprawled Japanese bodies lie around his cut-off outpost. At least 38 enemy dead are directly credited to Sergeant Basilone, many killed at arm's length with his machine gun and Colt .45 pistol. His hands are severely blistered, his face blackened with gunpowder, and his body utterly spent, but the line has held. The Japanese 2nd Division's main assault on the southern perimeter of Henderson Field has failed. The Marines, with critical assistance from the 164th Infantry Regiment, have inflicted devastating casualties, effectively annihilating a Japanese regiment. Over the course of the battle for Henderson Field, October 23–26, the Japanese suffer between 2,200 and 3,000 killed, while American losses are fewer than 100. This battle marks a decisive turning point in the Guadalcanal campaign. The Japanese, having lost thousands of men, are no longer an effective fighting force on the island and will eventually withdraw. For his extraordinary heroism and conspicuous gallantry in action against enemy Japanese forces, above and beyond the call of duty, Sergeant John Basilone is awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration. His citation details his valiant fight, his repair of a machine gun under fire, his personal manning of the weapon, and his perilous journey through hostile lines to bring desperately needed ammunition. John Basilone becomes a national hero, brought home for a war bond tour where he helps raise $1.4 million. He appears in *Life magazine and is offered an officer's commission, but he refuses, stating, "I'm a plain soldier, I belong with my unit." His dedication to his fellow Marines and his desire to return to combat are unwavering. He eventually returns to the Pacific, fighting on Iwo Jima where he is tragically killed in action on February 19, 1945, earning the Navy Cross posthumously. John Basilone remains the only enlisted Marine in World War II to receive both the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. His legend, however, is not just in his medals. It is in his unwavering courage, his indomitable spirit, and his profound commitment to his comrades. He is a symbol of the raw, brutal sacrifice made by ordinary men in extraordinary circumstances, a Marine who, when faced with overwhelming odds, simply refused to yield. His actions on that hellish night on Guadalcanal ensured that Henderson Field remained in American hands, a critical step towards victory in the Pacific. CTA. If this story moved you, subscribe. New forgotten stories every week. Which moment surprised you most? Comment below.